Abigail, how wonderful to have you with this series. So thank you for taking time to join me in a conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, it's exciting to have followed you for some years, have heard about you, and know you're doing really wonderful work. So I'd love for you to share about your journey
Sure.
and about you as an artist and just all the amazing endeavors you have. So thank you again.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. Definitely not a journey that I was planning because God's journey is always different than ours, right? I've been dancing since I was a kid, and it's something that I always knew I wanted to do. And I was in the secular dance professional world for a little over a decade. And the last couple years I was there, I really felt the Lord pulling my heart to something else. I really felt him pulling my heart into the Christian dance ministry. I wasn't 100% sure how that was going to be, what that was going to look like, but I really felt him speaking to me very clearly. Abby, your integrity as a Christian, as a believer, is on the line with what you're doing in this secular dance community. And that can depend on where you are, but I think the world is just going really off the path of where the Lord intended the arts to do and what the Lord intended the arts to do. So it was quite a journey after I said, okay, Lord, I am going to pick up and leave that world. I am going to just totally follow your path, whatever that may be. There were a couple doors with Ken Tolley down in Birmingham that were possibly going to open, and with Peggy Towns. And I thought that's where the Lord was leading at that time of my life. And it's crazy because the Lord shut every single one of those doors. And the moment the Lord started speaking to me about being full time in Madison and being settled in Madison, every door was opened. And so I was really placed in Madison by total divine intervention, because it was not my plan to live in Madison, but I love it. It is my home now. So I founded Magnum Opus in 2017, and we've been going strong ever since. It's been crazy with the pandemic, of course, but the first 4 years has been great, and excited for what the Lord is going to do in the future.
Can you share some more about Magnum Opus and maybe your mission statement and just where you're presenting about the company?
Sure. Yeah. So I really wanted to form a company where the dancers were treated like humans instead of machines. Um, in my time as a dancer, you're a number, you're a person in the back, you're the soloist, you're the core member, you're a dancer. You're not Abby the person. And so to create a place where it's like, okay, both with how the dancers are treated, both with how the finances are dealt with how the whole company runs, forming a company based on Christian principles with where we are in Madison, Wisconsin. I felt the Lord being very clear with me about not starting the company being overtly Christian and starting with Christian principles and loving the community first. And so that's what we've started to do the first couple of years. As we've gone through the first couple of years, I feel the Lord kind of telling me that, okay, you've opened the doors. It's time to start pushing the boundaries. People are ready. People are ready. People are eager, especially now going through so much desperation and just heartache with the pandemic. People are searching for hope, I think, more than ever before. So we're starting to push those boundaries. So the company is very small right now, but we really are formed with having the integrity and the basics of Christian principles within the company, and now starting to push the boundaries of what kind of performing we're presenting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely it does. And I think that's the, can be a model from the biblical context of we lead with love.
Mm,
And when you lead with love, then the purpose and reason, meaning why you're extending your service through love will get back to that authentic root.
yeah,
And evidently for us, it's Jesus. So
absolutely.
that's beautiful. So with that shift and change, I loved how you articulated, and it's a common phrase that we use with the Christian language, that doors close, doors open, and that transition to go to Madison. You spoke of it in some niceties, but I'm sure that there might have been, little heels digging in a little bit, like, I don't know, and resistance, or just so. How do you feel like you understood God as He was speaking to you, either in that transitional time, or how to form the company, or just where now it's time to shift to,
Yeah.
be more bold or brave? So just it's that listening. How are you
Yeah.
cultivating that listening skill?
Yeah. So I was dancing with another company here in town for 2 years before founding Magnum Opus. And then when I left there, I stayed in Madison for about a year. I was freelancing during that time and spending a lot of time with the Lord, figuring out what He wanted me to do. If I'm totally honest and vulnerable, it was one of the darkest times of my life, because those doors in areas that I thought He was going to open were shutting. It was a very dark time in my life where I was like, Lord, I picked up and I left what I thought was a pretty good career. And now all of these doors are shut. And I thought you wanted to use me. What's happening here? Um, so there are some times that, you get prayed, I was getting prayed for, seeking people to pray for me. And there was this time that I'll never forget, that I was prophesied over very specific things that were in regards to forming and founding Magnum Opus. And it was during that time that I remember just the boldness in me that the Lord gave me to, okay, keep going, or listening to other godly mentors who are also in the dance community. One of them is Robin Goulet. Robin Goulet is a dear friend of mine, an artistic mentor of mine, and she is just someone who has guided me and guided me very honestly. I remember sitting with her, I was doing a guesting, and I sat with her and she just spoke to me so clearly. And it was just the Lord using her and just listening of how I can proceed in Madison with what the Lord was trying to tell me. Because when He was telling me, all right, Abby, here's the idea for Magnum Opus, here's the vision, I didn't know where it was going to be. I wasn't sure if He wanted me to stay in Madison, plant in Madison, but Robin is someone that I would be on the phone with, cry to, and that she is just someone that the Lord used. And I am very thankful for her and her mentorship and leadership in that way. And finding those people in my life who I respect and listen to, I think is just a way that God really gave me peace and wisdom and kept helping me with having the ears to hear Him for what the vision of Magnum Opus is going to be.
The scriptures is full of people who were the spokesmen, right, or spokeswomen to relay a message. And so, obviously, we know it's important to cultivate our own relationship with God, listening to God. And then there's some times where it just feels like it might be a bit silent. And because we have this connectivity as artists, or the embodiment of connecting with other bodies, it's really okay and really good that people can speak over us or to us or pray for us, and that it's coming from a real body that's like disseminating that deep spiritual message. So there's definitely no shame in that. And I know there's times when that happens, and it can be my students, right? It doesn't have to
Oh,
be
right.
always these amazing mentors. It's like, oh, that is truth right there. I need to hold on to that. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. I'd love to hear a bit more about just your artistic, I don't know, philosophy, or something related to your creative process, how you connect to Creator, God, to what you're doing in your artistic endeavors. Can you share about that?
Sure. Yeah. Most of the time, I feel the Lord wanting me to use my past in creating work. There was a big chunk in my life that I was very far away from the Lord. And during that time, whether that was spiritually, emotionally, physically, I went through some battles, some, real rough and rocky roads very far away from the Lord. And after he has redeemed me and coming back to him, when I create work, that is always the first place he brings me to, of Abby, how did I draw you out of the muck? Abby, how did I pull you from this situation where you thought you were hopeless? And finding those situations that can be very relatable and trying to create from a space that is as relatable as possible. I also try to find people who are close to me, and hearing their story is also another place that I tend to create from as well. What is on their heart and where they are passionate or their experiences. That is probably my number one go-to, is experiences, whether that's someone close to me or my own experience of creating and connecting, how God works through these situations and hopefully is relatable to the audience.
May I ask, where are you in the birth order?
I am one of four. I have two older siblings and one younger sibling. But my younger sibling, she has special needs. So I grew up very much as an older sibling mentality.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there's that drivenness about you, but also just with all of the wonderful desire and connectivity, there's something about that middle one that also just like keeps
Yeah.
reaching out and likes that connection.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beautiful that way that you continue to cultivate community and cultivate relationships and hear from our stories. And I just think
Mm.
that people don't ever grow tired of hearing stories, because sometimes that's the most relatable thing that they can connect with to help them in their dire need, or
Definitely.
providing hope, or realizing, okay, they got through it, then I can too.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
good. So, with your continued endeavors, what's it looking like in the future for you all? Do you have performances that are coming up? What's
Yeah, we are really, really excited about our Christmas performance this year. The last 4 years, and also one Easter as well, we've done Full Light, which is a ballet done to Handel's Messiah. And God has totally blessed and anointed the ballet, and I'm unbelievably humbled by how he's done that. It's been incredible. But kind of like what I was talking about earlier, I felt the Lord, especially during the pandemic, say, Abby, it's time to push the boundaries, speak in my name. So I'm redoing a ballet called Flipside, and the beginning is very dark. It shows how kind of depraved humanity can be without Christ, and where we are as humans without Christ. And it shows the flip side of that, where we are when we accept the miracle at Christmas, when we accept that birth as the divine, holy God. And it is going to be very outspoken, something that has never quite happened in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm excited because it's happening right in the heart of Wisconsin, downtown in the capital, right on the square. So we're very excited to be preaching the name of Jesus downtown with our ballet Flipside for Christmas. And little blessings. We finally have a performance exemption for masks, so we're able to do it without masks. So I'm so excited. Hallelujah. Because it's going to be really our first time in a theater without masks in 2 years. So with live people. So we're so excited about that.
great. Well, I think that's the intention of performing arts, to perform live in front of people. It's pretty ideal.
Yes.
Um, what's the climate like there in Madison, or just what you know of what's going on out there in the world today regarding the arts, and how do you feel like there's a space for believer artists to fulfill the calling God has on their lives, to use arts to bring glory?
Yeah, there is a lot of art happening in Madison, which is great. There's contemporary, There's a lot of like sculptures and theater and music. It's great. I love that it is a very artistic town. But in reality, there is not a lot going on with the Christian arts. There are a handful of churches that have really stepped behind us and supported us. And we have really seen the Lord just really fulfill that that kind of backing that we need of, hey, as a church, we have your back. You know, if you want to come and minister, especially during the pandemic, come and minister during this time, we were able to still do that. And just churches really just have our back, hold our hands. And that has been really encouraging as Christian artists, because we don't really have that encouragement anywhere else. There's also a beautiful Christian school about an hour away from us that we are also very connected to. And we've seen the Lord encourage both the school and Magnum Opus by staying connected, while there's not a lot of our organizations in Wisconsin. So very thankful for both the Christian church here in Madison and especially ACTS as well. So
We need each other.
yes.
We do need that. And I believe sometimes when you have a driven, perspective on something, I'm just confessing, I can really drive forward and kind of forget about, oh, there's people around and they can add to this, or I can be blessed or enriched by that inclusivity. So I just appreciate that you already have that kind of community ethos about who you are and the value of that. The kingdom's so much more strong
Absolutely.
when we navigate and operate in that way. What do you feel like are some of the biggest lessons you've learned just over the last years? And maybe it's related to your own leadership roles, or just in life as a daughter of God, or just what are some of those lessons?
Yeah. I think as a leader over the last 4 years, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is, Abby, don't stress the small stuff. The Lord has it. And also, when it comes to your dancers or nitty gritty things about a performance, Abby, don't stress the small stuff, because that stress just piles on each other, just keeps piling and piling and piling. And it eventually just breaks you down. It breaks you down as a person. It breaks the atmosphere down. And so just to really learn, give the Lord every little detail. And learning that as a leader, I have been trying to learn that as just an everyday Abby person of, Abby, don't stress the small stuff and don't stress the big stuff either, and trying to not be so controlling. As a leader and as someone who is driven, sometimes you want to just hold it so tightly, but just letting go of all of the fingers it's been hard, and I'm still learning so much every day of just to let it all go and to give every aspect to the Lord. So he's still working on my heart with that, but I'm learning.
It's good that he's patient, right? Because I'm just the same. There's a part of me that likes a little bit of, or a lot of it, of control, because it just sure seems to go better. I grew up with this motto of proper planning prevents poor performance. And so if you've got things organized and properly planned, and then from there you are really following that strategic plan, then the success rate can go up. But God isn't always so interested in the final product being optimally looking like we think it should look. Being more flexible, and not only as a dancer, right, in the flexibility of our body, but just in our spirit and our heart as well.
Absolutely.
So what you shared, a favorite, one of your ballets that you're doing. Can you share anything about some of the other ballets that you've created for the
Sure.
company?
Sure. This spring was so fun. Of course, everything was still kind of crazy with the pandemic, as it is now. So we did a lot of performing outside. both last fall and last spring. So we did 3 different tours around Wisconsin in the spring, and then we did a ballet called Ripples of Joy. And I just felt the Lord wanting to move throughout his characteristics and the fruit of the Spirit during this time that felt like it was never ending. I was like, Abby, bring my joy, like bring my peace, bring my love. And so it was incredible. We were able to go to Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and Neshkora, and here in Verona, Wisconsin as well, and do this ballet. And Glorielle Nidfeld also choreographed and did this incredible piece, Take Me to the River. And that just kicked off our ballet just with so much joy. And I'm sure you know her. She just got energy to the moon, which is awesome. So we did that ballet, and we ended with a piece that is for King and Country piece that was called Joy. So it was just beautiful to go through the characteristics of God and bring it to an outside venue and just fill the parks with his love and his joy and his peace. And it was incredible. It was such a great spring. So
That's excellent. The joy of the Lord's our strength, right? So when we are able to lean into that, but also share that in such exuberance, it really can provide hope. Um, where do you feel like we are in the pandemic? Just as far as, and I know that's like this global question of like, oh yeah, in 2 weeks we're done with that. But just as far as what you've seen, just in your own, just what you've learned over these last months with your community, what you've heard from other artists, how have you been changed by what the conditions have been or things that have been imposed upon us, or just because there's been a phrase of, okay, I can't wait for the pandemic to be over so I can get back to normal. Well, I don't believe there really is an ever getting back to normal, just because we're always going to be forever changed in some way. What's that done for you in this time and season, for you personally, for this community, either what you've grown to appreciate or how you're looking at things differently and artistic possibilities?
Yeah, I think looking at things differently artistically has been, at first was very frustrating, but then I really like a challenge. So I was like, all right, Lord, let's do this. And that has been really great to grow with the Lord artistically, and to see things happen last year that I wasn't even thinking about. And just to be able to bless people in a way where we were able to produce more free performances, and that we gave that to the community, doing outside performances in the park, being able to reach a different audience, doing several different films. We did full-length film projects as well as short film projects, and thinking we couldn't have reached certain people before, and that we were able to connect with other artists, other videographers, other graphic designers that I was never planning on connecting with, and continuing to grow in those connections with the future. That's been really cool to see, not even thinking of that at all. We also do an adaptive dance class with Gigi's Playhouse, and we generally do it here in Madison, Wisconsin. But because of the pandemic, we did it online, and we're able to take it nationally. How cool is that? Like, to be able to work with people of the Down syndrome population all over the country on my computer. So cool. Was never thinking that we would do that. So I was like, okay, Lord, these blessings would have never happened without the pandemic. So while it's hard to stay like focused on planning, and then have to change the plan, that can get draining. But I also have to say, my dancers who I currently have are so incredible. They are go-getters. They are in it to win it. So if we've learned anything, the dancers are just more connected than ever before, because we've had to be, so yeah, those are a couple things, I guess.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that's just so evident of when we're given confines at times, it allows us to be even more creative and innovative. I still think about, as being a mom and a grandma, and you give the child a box and what they do with the box. And sometimes they play with the box more than they would play with the toy that's in the box. And it's like, oh, okay, so we've had this kind of box mentality, so to speak, but what can happen? And you all have been really just effectively doing that. I'd love to hear a couple of things. One, about the integrative community and how you've gotten involved there. So let's start with that one.
Sure, the community here in Madison.
In Madison, and then how it grew to be global, and just that interest and affiliation with people who with different abilities that are.
Yeah, for sure. So my sister has Down syndrome, and that's where my heart comes for people who have Down syndrome. And I was able to connect to the coordinator several years ago. I think during our first season, actually, we were able to connect. And I came to them with this idea that they've never had a ballet class before, and they ate it up. So I was really excited about that. And then from there, I went to get certified at Boston Ballet. And once we started the class grew. And that's when the idea came to, hey, we're going to do a full blown performance. And it's yet to happen because of the pandemic, but we're planning on it this spring of having a full blown performance with our adaptive dance class. And so to keep that connection has been really beautiful to help them through the pandemic, giving them free classes and continually cultivate that relationship has been really, really great. And just in other ways to connect to the community here in Madison, it's been awesome to figure out different pantries that we've gone to serve or different communities outside of the church walls to continue to cultivate community outside of the ballet world. That's been really, really great. Whether it's knowing someone from a church who has a connection to the owner at a food pantry or owns a soup kitchen, and finding those ways where we can go and serve has been really great for the community and to stay connected into Madison and more than just our tutus and pretty costumes. So that has been great.
It's so rewarding to work with different populations. And I can just speak from experience. We moved from East Bay, San Francisco, to where we are now in Jackson, Mississippi. And through the years, I presented an evening length works called Tunes, Tutus, and Turning Wheels. And so it was focused on the tunes. So there was live music, tutus, the dance component, and the turning wheels were represented the people who operated in wheelchairs or crutches, but also just differently abled people with Down syndrome, different abilities. And how amazingly rewarding it was to do those presentations and to give a voice for the people who would not elsewise have had a voice to communicate in that way or to share in such a wonderful opportunity, because I believe dance is in everybody. It's just, are we given the venue or vehicle to be able to operate in that way? So that's so commendable, the work that you're doing. So all of that takes time, and all of it takes energy and effort. I really appreciated hearing about the support and the network and the church support. I'd love for you to share about how that education process has happened, because not every church gets it. That, oh, the arts, that's just nice. You just kind of twirl around, but like, what's your work and what's your job and what do you like really do? So to validate that, but also finding, donors or sponsors or people who are really coming alongside and advocating for the arts. How have you been a part of that education process?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you. Like you were saying, not every church gets it, and hoping and praying that we can continue to educate the church and showing how valuable we are to the body and to the kingdom. One of our board members is a creative arts pastor at a church, and she has really helped Magnum Opus, not only supporting us through her church, but also helping to educate her church and showing the church that we are valuable to the kingdom, showing that it is a full-time ministry and a full-time job. She's been incredible with helping that. We also have a priest in Neshkora, which is about an hour from Madison. And he has done a very similar thing, pulling us up. Every few months, we've gone over there last year to perform or to show a small demonstration. And he's done a very similar thing of helping educate his congregation on what we do and how valuable it is to the kingdom and that it's important. So that's been a blessing.
It's wonderful to have even the different denominational backgrounds. I appreciate that diversity because sometimes there can be a denomination that may have more of a tendency to understand. And even looking historically at the arts and who were the patrons of the arts in different arenas. Wow, you're just doing so many incredible things. I just greatly appreciate
Oh,
you,
thank you.
Abby, and the work that you're doing and the diversity of the work that you're doing, how inclusive it is. It just is so wonderful. And I can imagine when you connected with Glorielle, she would have changed it up a little bit too, because she is definitely fiery and incredible woman. Yeah, just in closing, anything that you would like to share or to encourage listeners to consider?
I would just love to encourage others to encourage others. And something specifically is it takes so much courage and boldness to step out as a Christian artist. Whether that is leaving where you are, whether that is sacrificing because maybe the money isn't as good, which we hope and pray one day it will be equally as good. But right now, I know Magnum Opus is not there yet. We're financially not quite there yet. So my dancers sacrifice. I sacrifice. We work 12-hour days. And it is sometimes, not sometimes, it's just draining sometimes, you know? And so for other dancers, to encourage dancers to say you are not second rate just because you are dancing with a Christian company and you got to have 2 to 3 other jobs to support yourself. You are stepping out boldly for the kingdom and encourage each other in that, because you hear this word a lot. And I feel like I hear this word a lot, specifically in this generation, is burnout. There's a lot of like, oh, I'm burnt out by this, I'm burnt out by that. And I think it's, well, one, I think it's partly social media with the stimulation and all of that sort of thing. But we need to encourage each other. If you feel called to something, keep at it. Like, we want to hear the Lord say, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? And that's not always going to be easy. And let's encourage each other. Directors, can we encourage each other? I need encouragement. I'll be the first one to say it. And I've been able to connect with a handful of Christian directors just over Zoom and pray for each other. And that's been fantastic. And I'm asking other artists to do that as well. Like, let's not be in this competition mode of, hey, what are they doing? What are they doing? Hey, we are doing it all for the kingdom of God. Let's keep going. Let's make it bigger. Like, at another Christian company. Great. Awesome. Let's keep going. So yeah, let's just encourage each other.
And that's just aligned with the whole spirit, you know, in this whole interview, hearing you talk about the value of being in community with people, the value of those relationships and the investment. Not only what are you contributing as an entity, what's your company contributing, but what are you cultivating and what are you really, again, in that ethos of your being. And that just is rooted in God's love, right? That's rooted in God's encouragement and the encouragement of the Spirit that helps us to be able to even do that. Because in the world, we're going to be challenged and we're going to compare and all of those things. And there's a health about that in some context, right? You're in the bar at the bar and your leg is here and somebody else's leg is here and you're like, you know what I mean? So that there is something healthy about that. But when it gets into crossing that line of,
Right.
you know, pride or just trying to
Right.
break somebody else down or find
Right.
fault, that just isn't going to serve anybody well at
Absolutely.
all.
Absolutely.
So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way to
Sure.
reach out?
Sure. So our standard email address is just info@magnumopusballet.org. So you can get that on our website. And our social media is great as well. Myself and then some other dancers help run the social media, and that's a great way to DM us or something like that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Abby, for this time. Again, just it's been beautiful hearing more of your heart, and you're so beautiful, so articulate. The passion comes through, and I just pray God's blessings will be extremely abundant through this whole holiday season and for the next year to come. That you'll just meet God, eyes wide open, hands wide open,
Yes.
ready to receive and to offer all that He's given to you as a gift, to give back to those that have the blessed opportunity to encounter you and the company. So
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you for having me, and thank you for all that you're doing of creating this community of online. And I just so appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, my friend. Blessings.
Thank you. You too.